Hello everyone. Now some of you may know that we're running an exciting competition with our good friends at A Blog to Watch for January 2025. It's your chance to win a Blue Hour Helicon Master. We've had a fantastic response so far, lots of engagement, plenty of great questions and an overwhelming amount of enthusiasm, so thank you. I thought I'd take this opportunity to answer some of those questions right here on YouTube, and hopefully this will give you an insight into how we do things at Helicon, our designs, our inspiration, and why we're so passionate about what we do. Now, I also have to mention at this point that before we dive into those questions, let me remind you of something very exciting. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube, we'll be running another competition for 4 weeks only, and a subscriber could have a chance to win a Claret Helicon Master of their very own. So, what are you waiting for? If you haven't already, make sure you comment, like and subscribe to our channel. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming in 2025. Right, I've got my trusty iPad here, so let's go through some of these questions. Okay, Matthew Scholler. A handsome colour combo. I'd like to see this in an all blue version. Well, we do an all blue version. It's our edition with MBE, which is made by everyone. Now that's headed by our good friend Timothy Everest. He's the guy who's worked on such films as Skyfall, the Alien movies, has dressed David Bowie, and he worked on those colours with us. So if you want an all blue Helicon Master with a slight fade on the dial, look at the Ultramarine MBE. A Simple Aussie, great names these. A Sand and Sea Surf version. Replace the red orange with white gold yellow and a white pale blue middle colour to the gradient. Great idea. If you love these dial colours, and we do love them, then please do let us know, because we want to make things fun and exciting. AG. We would be nice to see a design variation, at least a GMT version. Well, it's really interesting about a GMT version. I wasn't sure if actually people thought a GMT was too fussy or too busy. Personally, I love a GMT. So if that's what you're asking for, we're going to listen. Jack Kowaleski, a GMT version, and keep coming out with more interesting dial colours like this one. Okay, well there's another GMT, and dial colours, I promise you, Danielle does love colour, so she works on that colour wheel all the time. RJ, really attractive dial, would like to see a GMT version. I think there's a theme coming here, so let's see what we can do. Mike B, nice watch. They have a lot of attractive dials, and this is one of the better gradient dials I've seen in a while. I like the late sunset motif. Next, I'd like to see their take on a golden hour. Thanks a lot, Mike. I mean, great question. All our dials are hand painted by one lady. They're done by a lady called Amy. She does a fantastic job, and we love the fact that she really puts her heart and soul into each of these dials. So even things like the type of paint, the finishing on them, she really looks at very carefully, and we do work on multiple layers. So we're really glad that you actually appreciate all this effort we put in. It's what we love. Benny Nem, how about an on-the-fly micro adjustment bracelet? Well, it's interesting. We haven't done that on this watch simply because we didn't want another point of weakness, and we like the diver's extension. But I'll be looking at that in the future. But let me just rest assured that when we designed the case of this watch and the end links, which are female end links, we really wanted it a bag, a comfortable watch inherent in its own design. Now, so far, no one has said to us that they found the bracelet uncomfortable or needed micro adjustment who owns one of these watches. So I think it's important to say that once I set my bracelet and once Danielle sets her bracelet, we haven't felt the need to adjust them. Of course, there is micro adjustment, but that's not the same as on the fly. But in my opinion, that can be a point of weakness in a performance watch. But we're listening. Paxton Sigbon. This is probably the best looking watch that I've seen on A Blog to Watch. Thank you very much. The colour design as well as the shape seem to excel in their design. This is a watch that could thrive by experimenting with new colour schemes, and you could offer a variety of unique styles. Well, thank you. That's great. We will keep experimenting. Now, I just want to say, we've always said that the Helicon Master will be limited edition. So we're not going to be bringing out more colour variations of the Master. We'll be doing something totally new. When we say limited, we mean limited, because I think that's really important that we don't just keep bringing out the same watch. We want Helicon owners to own something special. So once these are sold out, and I'm wearing my Lycan, which is virtually sold out now, they will be gone. We're not bringing them out. We're not bringing out Mark II, but we're listening to all this feedback. So thank you very much. Alberto Maldon, nice design. It would be nice to see a GMT version of the watch. Even the orange blue can be used to show day and night. Well, another request for a GMT. And I think it's quite interesting that we could play with bezel colours as well. But bezel colours in ceramic are quite hard to do. We could do an aluminium insert, we could do sapphire crystal, but we use ceramic and it's very hard to blend the colours and it's very hard to get a colour variation. So our blue, which was done just for us, was really hard to achieve, but a great idea. And I'm not averse to using different materials and different ideas. Nelson Batista. I know that this is 38.5 millimeters, but how about a 40 millimeter or bigger so as to be legible underwater, since this is a dive watch? Then again, this is a vintage style, also a sapphire crystal next time. Well, Nelson, thank you. Well, first of all, we really wanted to make a comfortable size. So the millimeters were not the key factor. It was the watch that wore well. Secondly, we'll always look at bigger watches, but do you want them? I mean, I like a bigger watch. Certainly Danielle's wears a bigger watch. She'll wear up to 44 millimeters, but we want to make what you want to wear. Also, I'm going to show you in some next videos that our watch has been used underwater for many months now. We have been having a test diver out there. So we have built this as a strong performance watch. So don't be fooled by its vintage inspirations. We built this watch to survive in the water in professional diving circumstances. And I'm going to be bringing you a video on that very soon. So when you see vintage inspiration, it's also built to perform in a modern parameters. And actually, sapphire crystal next time. This is a sapphire crystal. A few people have commented on that, and I can't see where they've got this information. The sapphire crystal is actually double domed with an anti-reflective coating on the inside only. We developed this crystal, it took a long time. It's actually one of the most expensive parts on this watch. We wanted clarity, we wanted toughness, and we wanted good legibility. So it does have a double domed sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating on the inside only. So thank you, but the sapphire crystal is already there. Felipe. The brand made a great watch with those colours and the finish looks robust. A GMT or a chrono with this design would be great for pushing the brand further. Okay, well, we're listening. We're hearing your comments. Wait to see what we've got coming in 2025. Kevin Brown. Nice design and dial colour. How about a loom dial option? Also, 38mm is the bare minimum for my wrist. I'd like to see a 42mm version. Okay, again, we're listening. You know, loom dial, I really like loom dials, but what do you think? You tell me. I think they make a really nice contrast, but I tend to like them with contrasting numerals and indices and hands. So like black numerals and indices and hands. What do you think? I think it's a really interesting idea. And there's some great loom colors out there. Nice design. Sorry, this is Kevin. Nice design and dial color. How about a loom dial option? Well, there's another one there. Okay, now we've got fretboard Falcon. Love the Faraday cage. Hoping for a pilot style watch next, maybe with high loom. Well, we've got a plan. We've got a 10-year plan. We're going to talk to you about the development process in future videos in 2025. A pilot's watch is in there, but not in the near future. We really want to cover all the bases, but we're only going to do it when the right inspiration or the right materials or the right design hits us. But more about new designs in a future video. Carlos Baruso. Lovely dial. A skeletonized version would be interesting. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question now. What do you think about sports watches with skeletonized dials and movements? I'm not so sure. I'd love to do a skeletonized movement watch. I think there's some great ideas. And I know Danielle's got some great ideas on the drawing board for a more dressier style watch with a skeletonized movement. But once again, that's way in the future. But what do you think? What do you think about sports watches with skeletonized movements? Not sure myself, but I want to hear what you've got to say. Aaron Pung. The gradient, though, personally, I'd like to see the brand become more modern and implement some fibre and rare materials into the design. Well, that's interesting. Now, do you mean carbon fibre dials or do you mean carbon fibre cases? I've been looking at those recently, and I was with my case manufacturer last year, and I did look at some carbon resin dial cases and carbon fibre and forged carbon cases. I'm just not convinced that they're tough enough at the moment for the applications we need. I love the material, I love the lightweight, but I want to be convinced that they'll be good for performance. But once again, let's hear your thoughts. Quan Martin, such a romantic dial. Thank you, it is called the Blue Hour. I can clearly feel the founders of Helicon are art dial enthusiasts. It would make the perfect sense for the brand to reveal more about the artist and the artistic techniques for the much deserved dials. Great idea. So thank you, Quan. I have got some video of Amy spraying the dials. I'm going to try and give you more of that, going through the production of how we do things. And once again, keep subscribing in the channel, because 2025, I'm really going to try and take you behind the process of how we create a watch. I think that's really important in 2025. George Wayne, I would like to see the brand's take on a pilot's watch. Okay, there again. Now, we're quite lucky because we have several customers who are genuine pilots, professional pilots, acrobatic display pilots, military pilots. So we're going to be asking for their input because we've got some great context there. But for me, a pilot's watch would have to be functional, tough, legible, anti-magnetic, and quite a few other things as well. So we'll do it when we get the right feedback. And again, we'll have some people out there testing our watch before it comes to market. But look, you're asking and we're listening. Helicon has very nice special dial colors. Date windows are the same color as the dials, at least for some types. Not white for all like now, would be a great plus. I'm a fan of diver chronographs. Would like to see a not too big size diver chronograph from Helicon with really nice dial colors, but maybe vintage style diver chronographs is a real niche product and has too small an audience to make. That's a really big question. There's several things in there, aren't there? The reason we have a date window is we like having date windows, and we did our roulette date wheel, which is black and red. We made our own date wheel. Daniel designed the font. We made the colors ourselves. We wanted to have that as a point of difference because we believe the original watch which inspired this had a roulette date wheel. So we wanted to make a feature of the date wheel. I didn't want a color background because you wouldn't have seen the roulette date wheel. But look, it's a great comment there. The date or no date is an interesting design element. I wanted a date on this watch. I thought it suited the era quite well. And once again, none of our customers who are Helicon owners have said, I wish you did a no date version. So thank you. It's interesting. Now, dive chronograph. That's really interesting. Now, the problem I've got with this is that vintage chronographs, which are small, aren't necessarily the toughest. And I want you to be able to use a Helicon in all circumstances. But when you think about the depth of a chronograph, then the dial, then the work on the dial, and the case back, a dive chronograph with a depth rating of, let's say, 100 meters plus becomes thicker. 200 meters becomes even thicker. And then you get those people commenting saying it's too big. So we'll work on some ideas. We have some ideas, again, in the backlog of what we're doing, but there are compromises all the way. Personally, I love chronographs. I'd love us to have a chronograph. I'd like to design a chronograph, but let's see what we can come up with in the future. But there are lots of design elements that mean you end up with something that do people like or do people not like. So thank you very much. John Simpson. Also, they make a huge range of color options. An interesting add-on would be a Velcro style strap suited to wearing over a wetsuit cuff. But we do have a diver's extension in the bracelet. We've got our skin diver straps, which are FKM rubber, so they are good for using in salt water and UV resistant. But I think these NATO straps and some interesting Velcro style straps are interesting. I'm always talking to strap manufacturers, but we have to commit to production. So if I'm going to bring a strap out like that, I really want it to be interesting. So we're looking all the time, but again, a great suggestion. Rene van der Spreng. Great looking piece. I would also like to see this with a date option at the 6 o'clock position. Also an FKM rubber strap with a quick release buckle. Well, we've got an FKM rubber strap or a silicone strap, a skin diver strap, which we felt suited this design. The date at the 6 o'clock position, I think that's interesting, but we're also governed by the movement and where we put the movement. So I had some look. Daniel and I did some ideas on this with the design at 6 o'clock, but it just didn't work on flow. And we thought this was a better balance across for a vintage inspired watch. But great point. Let's look at that as well. Frank Tummers. It's always interesting to see how brands are designing dive watches with the retro look without overdoing it. While most elements of this piece are simple, hands, indices and bezels, the sole flair is the dial. Nice piece. Well, that's the point. We wanted to have vintage inspiration with that little sparkle of colour and great performance. So we didn't want to, as we would say in England, over egg the pudding. We didn't want it to be too much. It's very hard to over design a watch. And I always say the hardest thing to design is a simple watch. But thank you for that. We've tried to make the elements that make us unique with a great performing watch, and one where you can see the echoes of watch design history. Daniel Tojakic. Is anybody from Europe get this prize ever? Well, Daniel, enter the competition, but also YouTube, subscribe here. We're doing this competition globally. I am happy to ship the winner's watch anywhere in the world. So subscribe, that's all you have to do, and you could win the Claret Master if you don't win this competition. That's the watch. I'm curious to how Helicon will tackle a Mizu black dial for a dress watch. Have to speak to Danielle. I mean, it's not imminent at all, but I think she'd love to have that really simplistic dial there. Daniel's worked on some dials for some other brands on dress watches, and personally I thought they were stunning. I can't say what they were, but she really got that element of mystery and simplicity right. So I'm going to leave that entirely up to her. Fearless leader. I'd like to see a no date with no phantom date. Okay, we get it. I mean, that's one person that's asked, but we've found at the moment that there just isn't the demand for it, and most people see a watch as having a date. The phantom date wheel, I find this interesting. I get it. I understand it. Is it such a big thing? I mean, we can order the movements, but I'd really like your comments. If you buy a watch with a phantom date wheel, but you don't see it, but you know it's there from the click, is that a big turn off for you? I'd like to know. Personally, if we did a no date, I'd put a no date movement in, but I'd like to know your thoughts. It's really important that we have some great comments here, and I'm learning all the time. Carl Jorgensen. Yummy seems to be the best word I can think of to describe my reaction to this watch. Great classic design with a stylish addition of a gradient colour face. The choice of the Seiko Auto movement, while fairly common among micro brands, demonstrates a commitment to rugged performance. Not sure what the Faraday cage entails, but it's intriguing. The integrated bracelet rounds out a practical, rugged design. Well, thank you, Carl, that's right. I mean, first of all, I think we wanted to make a watch that was simple and practical. The use of the Seiko movement, I love Seiko. I've been a direct customer for over a decade. I really work well with those guys. I know people say it's a run of the day movement, but those of us who own those movements know that that 3-lever magic system, the ruggedness of us, the fact they can be easily serviced and repaired, the fact that we can replace them easily, means that I'm not going to have problems when we're looking after these watches in 5 or 10 years' time. And that's really what I want here as well. We've spent a lot of time engineering this watch properly. So the Faraday cage, I mean, I've seen a lot of watches with plastic movement holders. I don't like them. They look cheap. They're brittle, so they transmit shock energy. They have no function at all apart from holding the movement in place. It's a bit like if you saw someone wearing braces now. We have belts, braces are good as a style thing, but there are practical solutions. So it's brass, which is anti-magnetic. I then IPS plated it, so it's corrosion resistant and doesn't tarnish. And I just think it gives not only a degree of anti-magnetic resistance to it, but it's also a great material for shock absorbance. So that's really why we used it as well. And again, we wanted that bracelet to be practical, elegant and rugged, and that's the point. And so far I've had no bracelet failures. They've all been strong and robust, and I want this watch to be worn and used. So that's just a few questions from the Blog to Watch crew. Thank you so much. I really want this channel to be a two-way communication. The comments have been amazing. I think we've had lots of grown-up and intelligent comments in them, and I'm learning so much. So I'm really going to be taking you onto a journey inside what we're doing at Helicon in 2025. There's so much going on in the watch world at the moment that I think I'm almost in the prediction business at the moment. And I'd be really grateful for your comments and feedback. And in return, I'm going to take you on a journey that I don't think any other microbrand has done. We're going to show you how we do things, show you what we're doing for our next projects. And as I said with the Master, the lighting is almost sold out now. The Blue Hour is fast behind it. But once this is sold out, we're not going to be doing this design with a different dial. We're moving on to different things because we want our story to have a beginning, a middle and an end. And on that note, thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe, thumbs up, and please do comment. It's amazing to hear your thoughts. It's a two-way conversation here. And as a small, privately owned husband and wife brand, we really do appreciate all your time and all your feedback. So thank you for watching.